Hello everyone, here at the K&T, as usual, and I have a new project. See, this dividing head, with its beautiful little 6-inch chuck, doesn't have a chuck key. So I have been using this ratchet, because it fits, as a chuck key. I'd like to remedy that. I have this piece of material I picked up from my other shop on one of my trips to bring some stuff over to here, and I believe that it will be the perfect little specimen to turn into a chuck key. I also found a very long galvanized bolt that I will also be using as the handle. Now, this isn't going to be a regular boring chuck key. I'm going to spend some time to make it look nice. and I'm not knocking anyone else, but chuck keys are usually very boring. And I'd like to see if I can't spend a little time to make this one look not so boring. Naturally, there's going to be the square driver end, nothing I can do with that. I'm going to put the handle will be about here. I'm going to put a radius here so that my fingers comfortable to slip my fingers right there, and I'm going to facet all of this. There'll probably be 5 different sides just to be different. Now there's going to be some pretty accurate stops as far as from here to here for all the 5 sides. I'm going to have to mill a facet, pull out, go back accurately to the exact same spot, go back into the exact same spot, and mill the slot and make it the same length. Sorry, brain fart. Now this mill doesn't have a DRO. It's an old pre-DRO, way before DROs. So I'm going to be using indicators off of different points to give me my 2 stops, and I'm also going to be using my production stops. You can see one down here. These I'm going to set, and I'm also going to move the work. It's not very accurate. It doesn't have to be, say, 1 inch exactly in from the end of the chuck key. That isn't accurate, but where it does start needs to be repeatable, and where it ends needs to be very repeatable. I'm going to mill a flat down here so that whenever I drill, it'll be easier. And then that radius down here. All of the work on here will be done with a Morse cobalt end mill. A nice new little guy. The ends of it are burnt because I tried to use it to mill that forklift tine. I got tired of my face mill. Those inserts, they required so much pressure, so much rigidity, that I went to an end mill and burned it up. But the flutes, as you can see, are still fine. So I'll get this guy mounted and I'll start machining. So I have the part in the dividing head chuck. I have 5/8 inch cobalt end mill loaded up. Got my speed and my feed selected, and don't know if I mentioned this, but I faced the surface, so that gives me my 0. So I need to move this guy in about 600 thousandths, actually probably closer to 800, to account for the thickness of the end mill. So I have the end mill loaded up, my feed and my speed selected. I've faced the end of this part, and it's in the dividing head chuck. Now I need to move the end mill in precisely 1 inch to account for the depth that I need for the square holes and the radius left behind by the 5/8 inch cutter. I've decided that's 1 inch. How am I going to do that? Well, I have an indicator up here. but it's not touching. How do I know that this cutter is going to move in exactly 1 inch whenever that thing isn't even touching? I have a 1 inch gauge block that I used to set the indicator. It is just a Chinese gauge block. However, I do trust them enough for something like this. So now, focus, if I go past the 0 to the 100,000ths mark and stop on 0, I've moved my cutter, this edge here, exactly 1 inch. And I've used this surface, which is a machined reference surface, specifically built to do things like this, or to have indicators on it and to indicate in the spindle. This is also parallel with the spindle of the machine. So now all that's left is for me to touch off and mill the flats. They're going to be about 400,000ths wide for the end of the driver. I don't think I'm going to show any footage of that. I don't have any good way of holding my camera because I usually use this thing with a nail. I drilled a hole in my OtterBox holder and it just holds my camera. So I won't be photographing or videoing that, but you guys get the gist. It's a good sharp end mill. It won't take me any time at all. So I did a little bit of machining off camera, and I kind of finished it. When I started milling, my dad came into the shop and started working on projects, so I didn't end up filming a whole lot of it. I did get the radius down here. It I think my chuck has a little bit of run out. It looks interesting. These sort of, where the end mill stopped, looks atrocious, so I might file that. I put 5 sides on it. I went and I chamfered all 5 sides. Put a flat up here so then the drill had something to bite into without walking. I just used that bolt, milled off the end of it. Just a small video. Now I gotta clean everything up and put all the tools away so that I can get back to working on this guy. I dialed in the spindle nice and accurately with my half thou indicators. There's sort of 3 thou peaks here. As I started machining it, my spindle was out. So now that it's all dialed in, I can go back, finish this surface, work on this surface, get this guy milled, take away this little shelf, do all the other surfaces naturally, get this weld bead off of here, and get done with it. Well, thank you for watching this small video. Didn't turn out how I wanted it to, but that's alright. My workbench is very messy.